Right, let's take you through the West Asia War Week 5. Will the United States end this war, or will this war really find an end? It seems like despite the United States and Iran going head on, there seems to be one party at least here wanting to withdraw, and that appears to be the United States. Right now, the US is sending more troops into the Middle East, like soldiers, Marines, special forces. On the surface of it, it appears as if the United States is preparing itself for a big fight, a big war. But if you listen very closely to what Donald Trump is saying here, then it tells a whole different story. Donald Trump does not want this war to last long. He wants a quick finish, a quick exit, a deal to be done at the earliest. And that's what we understand from his comments day after day. At least in the last few days, he's been hinting at a deal, at least an attempted one, which Iran is flatly striking down or shutting him up by saying it's not even true, he's imagining it. So then why send more troops? United States is sending more troops, but yet want a deal. Why? Because Trump wants to end this war, but he wants to end it from a position of strength. He wants to hit hard and then claim victory and step back. He doesn't want to look like he withdrew. He's already hinted at this. He says clearly that talks are happening, which Iran is refusing. He says progress is being made. Again, Iran is refusing. And now a big signal. Trump is saying that he's in fact underlined, saying that he's ready to wind down this war, even if the Strait of Hormuz stays permanently blocked. He says, I don't care. Now he's gone on to say, I don't care if Strait of Hormuz opens up or not. In fact, he's slammed the neighboring countries like the United Kingdom today itself, where he says, show some delayed courage. If you want to get your oil, go get your own oil. That's almost a given up, frustrated Trump speaking. And he puts that out on his social platforms, almost nagging many European countries, including the United Kingdom, saying that don't expect the US to come and protect you and save you every time, go get your own oil. Well, here what it's now making it look like, United States is becoming and clearly being projected as the enemy here, because Iran is very clear. One of the demands of Iran is that you got to agree that we have autonomy and authority over the Strait of Hormuz, which of course the United States is not agreeing to. And now US says, we don't care, you keep it, close it permanently for all we care. Whoever wants to come and get it will get it. And that's what he says today. Because reopening it by force could drag this war on for many more weeks. That's precisely what the United States wants. It wants to end this war at the earliest. Reopening the Strait of Hormuz by force could really drag this war for a few more weeks, and that's exactly, or maybe months, exactly what America does not want, at least Trump does not want. And here, Donald Trump is constantly projecting as if America hit hard, they've done enough, and now we're done. There's, we're all that we had to do, cripple Iran and its infrastructure, we've done all of it. And now we want to back off. That's America's stance, while Iran is now not playing along. Iran, on the other hand, is keeping its message very blunt, saying that you can leave, but you don't get to decide the terms. Iran's military has already warned that any further aggression by anyone, United States particularly, will be crushed. In fact, their headline says it all. They've released a magazine that says, "Welcome to hell." That's Iran's literal magazine picture that says, "Welcome to hell." There you have it. The country of Iran holds the biggest card in this war, which is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow sea route through which a huge chunk of the world's oil passes. Iran is now planning to charge toll on ships that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. It will restrict United States and Israeli vessels, which it's already doing. It wants to tighten control over that route entirely, and that means even if bombs stop, the pressure does not. Oil prices, shipping routes, global economy, everything stays affected, even if this war ends. So the reality here is that US can stop the fighting, but it cannot fully end the crisis. Trump wants a quick war, a short one, quick exit, victory headline, but Iran is responding, saying that we are not going to surrender, we are going to continue fighting, you got to back off. Iran wants maximum leverage out of this war. At least it wants proof that it cannot be bullied, and that's what it's trying to project. And now Trump has gone even further, sending a message to countries hit by oil shortages, especially to the United Kingdom. As I did mention, it says, build up some delayed courage, go to the Strait of Hormuz and take it if you want. This is Trump's word to the neighboring countries. Well, America is preparing now to step back, we understand, and it's asking others to deal with the consequences. So can the US end this war militarily? Absolutely, yes. But politically, economically, and globally, this crisis, it appears, is far from over. And that's where the real deadlock lies. Major General K.K. Sinha, strategy and geopolitical expert, joining me. We also have Adit Kotari, who's a geopolitical expert. We also have Itai Malkoe, who's a non-resident senior fellow, the Atlantic Council and Middle East expert, joining us live from Haifa. Thanks very much, all of you. Let me bring in Major General K.K. Sinha on that. So, would you like to open on Trump wanting an exit here, but he isn't finding one? It's hilarious now to see how Trump is really like a fish out of water. He's trying really hard to end this war. He's giving many signals. He's bringing to but look at the optics of it. He brings troops on the ground and he floods them across the Middle East, and then acts like he's going into a war and threatening Iran. But none of that is really working. It doesn't seem like he has support from any quarters. Israel is on their own tangent. America now wants out, but it's not finding a way out.
Thank you, Nabila, for having me here. Good evening and Jai Hind. See, the opening is, what I will say, that the Trump, the way he perceived, the globally, especially, in his second term, he thought it is, something like Venezuela, he was able to do it. Altogether different ball game. When you come down to the Middle East, especially when you are dealing with Iran, it is a matter of fact, Iran is a country which has never been defeated. They might have done something wrong, like, the axis of resistance and things like that. But they are a very proud country, and changing the regime, behind mind were two things, when the Trump came here, especially in the second, this, which is started on 28th of February. He thought that, in the Venezuela way, that he will able to do it. And second thing, he was eyeing for, basically the oil of Iran. He thought he will be able to do it, and that will be a great story for him. And the people around him, especially his Secretary of War, he has got a very little, military experience. He was a major in the National Guard, and he was more or less thrown out. But he came very close to him, and his Secretary of State. Only J.D. Vance, who has been, and his Joint Chief of Staff, they cautioned him that you can't do it militarily and don't get trapped because of Netanyahu, what he's saying, that this is a strategic time, you can do it, and you will have a second feather in your cap. There he went wrong. Flip-flop. Now what he's doing, he's totally got trapped into it. And it is a great strategic victory, I feel, as the Iran is concerned, backed by Chinese and the Russians. A great victory here. Now the Donald Trump, neither he can win clearly, nor can't exit gracefully. He can't. Now that's why he's saying, okay, I can leave without opening the Strait of Hormuz. He had given an ultimatum within 24 hours and 48 hours that you open. Otherwise, I am going to do this. 15 points program. If you go through that, absolutely, it is a wish list which he has, on which they want to have the ceasefire with Iran. I don't know any country in the world who has got some self-respect will do that. In retaliation to that, the way the Iranians have done it after 1st of, March, 2nd of March, they came back as a nation. Today, Iran is in much better position than it was anywhere. If not even in 79, he was in that better position. Country was divided. Today, you surprised to know 10 lakh people, have come over and above IRGC, and their armed forces were there. They want to join, want to fight. And that is the proud nations do it. That has got a history of 2,500 years, never defeated in their soil. Not a single inch of ground of Iran has gone anywhere. So people should understand, when you push someone, they will do it. And they have escalated not only regionally, the way they've hit all 19 bases, and especially what they have done it in the Persian Gulf, I think, something, very, very, it is a very deep strategic thinking on which they are doing it, and they are escalating it. There are people behind them, and they are getting the backup, but they are doing with their own ability, own thinking. And I think, I have got heads up to them. They did a mistake for the, when they have gone for the axis of resistance the way they did it on 7th October 2023. And if they are pushing that, that is wrong. But now the way they have come up, especially in the Strait of Hormuz, no one can, and I have got experience of 38 years, we have dealing with this, this amphibious landing airborne operations. We have trained people. I don't think there is an immense single, I can give him the 1% chances of getting success over there. You can't physically do it, militarily you can't open it. So he can withdraw from there. But what you said, politically, strategically, geopolitically, he is going to lose the battle in West Asia.
He already appears to have. But what about Israel? Even if the U.S. wants to pull back, U.S. Is fighting its own war. Israel is fighting its own war, right? If U.S. wants to pull back, Israel will be left all alone. What happens to that? The promise that U.S. made to Israel that we will be with you till the end of it.
See, the Israel, when they started on 7th October, I think it was, because they were hit badly.
Yeah.
That was something. No. But thereafter, you can't keep increasing your military aim. There has to be a point on which you started with that. You will take only, Hamas, that was there. You put Hezbollah and Houthi. They were able to control it to a great extent. But now you are extending that, finish Iran once for all, that they should not have the nuclear, they should not have any capability. I think, Netanyahu has gone absolutely wrong in my judgment. They were good for 1 year. Now their joint chief of staff is saying, if they will carry on, the IDF is today tired. And they say this, the reservists who keep coming it, IDF will lose this battle. Iran will lose this battle. Though it is very important that they should understand they have literally achieved a lot of things over there. Just cool down, give others things to to amend their ways. You will have your say there. You have not been thrown out. Debt to America, debt to Iran. These are the slogans. You can't take it absolutely that this is their military aim.
Itai, would you want to come in on that? Is Israel prepared for the long haul here? Are you hoping that US backs you all the way? And if US withdraws, what's plan B for Israel?
There are a few things that are very clear. We saw in the last round, US said stop. Israeli jets turned back mid-air on the way to a mission and came back. So it's clear that Israel will comply with any decision by Trump. That brings us to the unknowns, which is Trump. Listening very carefully to him, it could be very dangerous and misleading, especially if you are Iranian. And I will say this, we see different things that he says on different days, and we look closer at his advisors and the Secretary of War, Secretary of State, just their comments today on the issue seems like they want to continue. They are sending troops in. Seems like they are not afraid, and Secretary of War said today they're not afraid of boots on the ground, even though there's a big American fright from this based on previous campaigns. That said, this could all be a part of the American philosophy, which used to say, speak softly and carry a large stick. In this case, just without the speak softly part, but that's Trump's style. So we have to be careful, and you have to see that one of the days this week, we actually saw Trump tweeting two tweets, one against Iran and once against NATO. The one against NATO was in full capitals, all of it. The one against Iran had some threats, but there were 3 or 4 words which were capitalized. So you can see who is more cross with. In the end, the question is how this ends. It will end with some kind of agreement. I don't think anybody was really thinking that the people are going to go out on the street and change the regime, but there are some conditions. One condition Trump cannot live with is the oil, because the oil price is a very sensitive thing in the US. No sitting president or party has ever won when oil prices went up. And remember, we have a midterm elections, very substantial elections coming up in a few months. So I don't think that Trump will live with any solution that leaves the Hormuz Straits closed or controlled by Iran. Therefore, the solution will the end be either going back to what was before or using force by the US. That said, there's another element which we haven't spoken about, which is participating only on the receiving side of this war, and that is the Gulf countries. Secretly, behind closed doors, they are edging America on. They do not want to live with a strong Iran or even stronger Iran that controls. And in the end, a stronger Iran is not winning militarily, but it's just staying alive, because their main aim is staying alive. I think that some of the rhetorics we're seeing from them, and very heightened rhetorics today, threatening US corporations, Intel, Nvidia, some other giants, Apple, HP, as the rhetoric grows stronger, it could be because the panic is growing inside. Some American experts claim that Iran can hold out for another 3 or 4 weeks. I don't think that the US intends to carry on for another 3 or 4 weeks. But I think that we will all be much cleverer in about a week's time.
But do you believe there have been back channel talks with Iran?
Yes, I'm having myself served for administrations. There are always back channels. A funny incident this week when Secretary of War refused to say who the back channel was, and Trump 5 minutes after saying that they are finding the chair of the parliament, Kalibaf, as someone very reasonable to speak to. So there are back channels always. Again, the idea here is, and was from the beginning, to reach an agreement. Remember, the targets of the war, one was nuclear, and Trump just today said that he's confident that the uranium is now buried so deep no one can get to it. The second was the missile program. The third was the proxy, the Houthis, which have so far relatively stayed silent, Hezbollah, Hamas, the militias in Iraq and other places, and in the end also the human rights in the country. Those were the missions to begin with. So we can say that there's a big progress on it, and therefore I think if Trump gets the deal he wants, he will stop it, and when he stops it, everyone in the region will lay down arms, I think, immediately.
Do you believe that Israel and US have really obliterated Iran's defense capabilities? Has it really been significantly weakened, or is it just a far-fetched statement? Because they seemingly are strong and continuing to attack.
No, if you look at the attacks that we've been seeing the last few weeks, it's nothing compared to the previous round. And we know for a fact, we've seen the number of vessels that has been that have been drowned. We see the attacks on the Air Force. We see that Israeli and American aircrafts are moving around freely in the airspace. So therefore, it's clear that the military capacity is diminished. Again, as I said before, Iran does not want to win this war by conquering anything or attacking anyone. It just wants to hold out. That is a win for them. So therefore, that is what they're focused on. And I think targets have been hit, and have been hit hard. We know this for a fact. The question again, is it reversible? Can they rebuild? Well, if sanctions are lifted in some agreement, they will have all the money in the world because they have lots of oil. And then they will be able to rebuild. The question is what direction that regime will take, and if this is the final battle, or we're going to have another round.
Well, have there been any attacks in the last few days, the last 3 days, say?
There are all the times, but as opposed to
where are these attacks happening all the time? Very little news emerging.
They fire one or two rockets every time. This can happen a few times a day.
Towards where? Fired where?
Everywhere. Some of them to population centers using illegal weapons, which are bombs that distribute and fall in a big radius. And of course are not targeted at anything specific, but at civilian centers in cities and towns. We've even seen the Palestinians in Hebron killed from those rockets. But the number of casualties so far is very small compared to the last round. We see Hezbollah trying to time together with them and fire from Lebanon. Hezbollah can reach all the way to Tel Aviv. You're showing some footage here from, I believe it's the Tel Aviv area, the center area of Israel. They claim they're trying to fight some strategic sites. Israel has some strategic sites in the south that they've tried to hit. And in Haifa, where I live, we have oil refineries which have had smaller hits of shrapnel after a successful interception. Remember, Israel has a very strong system of interceptors, the Iron Dome, which many countries started buying following the previous Iran war. Remember also that Iran this war fired a 4,000-kilometer rocket showing the capabilities to reach anywhere in Europe. So we see many back orders for these kind of interceptors and defense systems.
Do we know if, like Trump has fallen out of support from a large population within his own country? The political circles are divided as well. He has a tough election to face in the coming months. Do we know if the situation is different in Israel? Does Benjamin Netanyahu have all the support politically and externally within the
just
country?
on the state, Trump started with very low support, worked very hard on the media to raise the support, and now it's slumping again due to oil prices. In Israel, again, we are in a politically difficult time. We are going, it's the last year of this government, which has had many disputes. We've had the dispute over the judicial reform. We had October 7th, a big fiasco and war. And therefore, everybody's looking at elections, which will most likely be around October. Netanyahu has has gained support. His party has gained support since the beginning of this war, but still, as most polls show, he is not going to be able to form a government. Many of the hopeful wannabes from the center and from the right, soft right and soft left, new candidates, previous chief of staff and previous Prime Minister Bennett, both showing candidacy, and therefore, yes, the population in Israel says we are willing to sit this one out if this is the final war. Again, the same in the northern border.
I can only imagine, as much as a bold front that Israel has put out for more than 2 years now. I could only imagine the uncertainty, the volatility that people are facing every day. It's tough as it is. And when is the election in Israel?
Date hasn't been set yet, but they just passed a very big hurdle of passing the budget yesterday, which means they don't have to disperse the parliament ahead of time. Now it's all in the hands of Netanyahu. Parliament has gone on recess until mid-May. So if nothing unforeseen happens, Netanyahu will most likely want to do it as late as possible legally, which is mid and second half of October. He does want the war to end. He wants to show results. He wants maybe the Abraham Accords to grow from countries to join.
And there's been a lot of backlash. Today we got news that Israel has cleared a bill that imposes death penalty on terrorists or any anti-national.
Yes, this has received a lot of backlash. Barely passed in parliament. Not all of the right-wing parties support this. And in the end, if you read it carefully, you see that it really doesn't change much. It's actually part of politics leading up to the elections initiated by Ben Gvir, the Minister of Internal Security, who wants to be seen as a hardliner. Israeli military law does allow this already. It is in the law book. It's never been exercised. Israel has only hanged one person to date, and that is a Nazi, Eichmann, who was captured and brought to trial in Israel based on the Holocaust. So the law does allow it anyway today, and most people, commentators, think that this law would not change anything on the ground, but it has caused a lot of backlash, and some of Israel's good friends have raised a very, very high eyebrow about it. So it's not a clever move, but this is, again, has much more to do with internal politics than with real fighting terrorism.
Right. All right. Let me quickly bring in Adit Kothari on this. Adit, we're looking at US and Iran both do not want to look weak. But it seems like now there's enough pressure globally, especially from oil-dependent economies. Could this really push a negotiation, a settlement, a forced settlement, because countries all over, including India, is bleeding?
Nabila, because this is a three-way war, which we need to remember, it's the GCC countries also which have a stake in it. And if there was a retreat that Donald Trump is actually posturing at this point, it's a golden gift to Iran at the end of the day. Iran gets to keep Hormuz as a leverage, and the new norm is going to be that Iran actually dominates and uses
That's what they
Hormuz
want. That's part of their demand, that now we
as a
will
hostage.
dominate. That is our area. We have
Exactly.
authority
So
there.
which was not status quo prior to the
Yes.
20th of February 2026, right? So the waters were shared between Oman,
Yeah.
Bahrain, and Iran. So now Iran basically gets a leverage, and they basically make up monies for everything that they've lost in the last 4 weeks. And they're able to make more money, and they're able to make the GCC countries pay for it. They're able to make India and China and the other Asian countries, which are the bulk of the importers, bulk of the beneficiaries out of the Strait of Hormuz exports, pay for it. And that is going to be the consequence of it. I mean, United States doesn't really import much from the Strait of Hormuz. Neither does Europe. I mean, their import shares are anywhere between 2 to 5%.
So
there is not
this
a
is
lot
what
of.
Trump says. I don't care about Strait of Hormuz. If you asking the UK if you want to save your oil, go do it yourself. Don't expect the US to back you up and protect you or your oil
True.
any
But
further. So he couldn't care less. Maybe like you said, because there's not much there's not much business they do through that route. So
at the end
it's
of the day,
now
what
left
is
to all the other countries to bear the consequences of what Trump started, basically.
No, actually, it works out beneficial for most of the other countries, because you're doing away with the American hegemony, and you're opening up all of the countries towards the roadmap towards multipolarity. So, UK does its own sort of side deals with Iran and the GCC countries, and so does India, and so does China. So, it's a new game where the American hegemony basically takes a hit, and as a consequence, the world economics benefit in the long run. Short term, yes, there will be certain issues which all of the countries will be bearing the economic cost of it. But at the same time, Nabila, let's not forget, with the spike in the oil prices, if Iran continues to dominate the Strait of Hormuz, and continues to calibrate the oil prices, the global oil prices, America is not going to be insulated as well. We've already seen that gasoline in America, as they call it, is already hovering around at $4 at an average, and that has massive repercussions on domestic politics and the domestic electoral politics, which we will get to see in the midterms. I mean, Donald Trump's ratings are already at an all-time low, I beg your pardon. And he's not going to be coming out with any sort of a face saver at the end of the midterms. And God forbid, if he loses both the House and the Senate, it could lead in an impeachment of Donald Trump, with a very, very humiliating impeachment. So he's got all of this in mind, but we also need to look at the last 3-4 weeks of the way he pivots and postures every Monday and Tuesday to control the market, to manipulate the market, and then what he does across the rest of the weeks is completely different. So
what's your hunch? How long will this go on? Do you think this will really never end? It's going to be a low intensity, prolonged conflict?
So because this is a three-way war, which three stakeholders actually want something else from Iran, where Israel basically wants to completely decimate Iran. They want to decapitate their ability to hurt Israel with asymmetrical warfare. Asymmetrical warfare being capitalizing on Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas. So they want to decapitate that capacity of Iran to hurt them. From the GCC perspective, they want Iran's capability and their leverage over Hormuz completely gone. And there is also the Shia Sunni politics, which I'm not going to delve into. And from an American perspective, they want global hegemony and global control over supply chain of all natural resources, which feed into supply chain of global commodities, whether that be helium or whether that be fertilizers. So given that all three stakeholders want different things, we could see this playing out for a fairly long time. I mean, I don't agree with the Israeli gentleman who had joined that this will all ramp down in the next couple of weeks. I think we're in it for a few few months, so to speak, even
What's
if in a
travel like? I
protracted
mean,
form.
what are you doing in London, Adit? And what's travel like? When did you go? Was there any issue with your travel flights?
I was supposed to travel to India this week, but now I'm not, given the high cost that I would have to bear, that my wallet would have to bear. So as a consequence, I'm just sitting put in London at the moment. But oil prices have also gone up. Our diesel's gone up to about from 120 has gone up to about 180. So there are people feeling the pinch. Domestically speaking, interest rates have gone up to about 5% from about 3.5%. So the common man is going to feel the
So
brunt
you're
of
saying
this.
air tickets were really high that you planned for a week after?
That's correct.
Well, I'm dreading to see what, I mean, India's domestic usage is probably the largest in the world. We're hoping that it doesn't hit our consumers here in the country as bad. So far, it's a very minimal price hike, and I hope it stays there. Thanks very much, our guests there, for joining us. I really appreciate it, Major General K.K. Sinha and Adit, on this story.